4Paradigm, China's leading AI unicorn. In April, as a matter of fact, of 2020, Cisco Systems became an investor in 4Paradigm. What are they looking for?
Yeah, well, first of all, my thanks to you, Martina, for the chance to speak today and to directly address the Cisco relationship. That was a big moment for us because this is obviously a major global US-based tech firm that has a fantastic network of clients, and they have joined us as a strategic partner. Now, why did they do that? Well, I suppose to an extent we should ask them directly, but I will say that I am in contact with Cisco regularly, and they, I believe, see 4Paradigm as a rapidly globalizing Chinese tech champion. And the potential for them to get a return on their investment and potentially for 4Paradigm and Cisco to be working actively together in certain markets is something that we are exploring.
What market is the partnership looking at?
Global. So just the same way like Cisco has a global network, 4Paradigm aspires to have that global network. It's coming into place, but it's still obviously in development. I speak for EMEA. We are actively speaking within Europe at the moment to just look at potential opportunities for us in our shared networks, and also technologically. We are working to ensure full seamless compatibility of 4Paradigm technology with Cisco. We're definitely excited about that investment. That is a major milestone in our globalization.
China wants to become an AI global leader by 2030. And of course, the race for supremacy with the United States is on. And how does that work in that case when you have a partner like Cisco, who is an American company, and then you have 4Paradigm, a Chinese one, when you played out on the global geopolitical scene?
The China-US relationship is one that everyone in AI and a lot of other industries are very conscious of, increasingly conscious of. Speaking from the 4Paradigm perspective, we view this as a case-by-case global opportunity. So when we speak at the level of China and US, we're talking at such a high level, and so many hundreds of millions or even billions of people are involved in there, and thousands of organizations. So 4Paradigm is an artificial intelligence company. We have 700 employees. We are focused very narrowly on artificial intelligence and just creating best-in-class applications. Now, in that context, the opportunity to find like-minded people who are interested in that technology, where we can mutually assess each other as companies, as the fit at the company level, there are theoretically thousands of permutations, and we have full confidence in finding actual matches.
Everybody says that. So what sets you apart, and how can you win over competition?
It's a combination of the transparency, which is prerequisite. I mean, without that, you will not get anywhere in certain markets. But it's also just the technological excellence. So if you have to have a compelling enough product where people are willing to invest the perhaps extra time that's necessary to do the due diligence and to make sure that at the micro level, we have a fit, then that is a competitive disadvantage to us. But if we can demonstrate that we're the best, and we have that transparency and the patience, where basically we proceed at the potential client's pace or the potential partner's pace. We're not pushing them to make a decision today or tomorrow or next week or next month. We believe that just having that open dialogue and consistently demonstrating what we can do for them is going to get us to the finish line.
So, Mark, this is a very big decision, as you said, that Cisco decided to invest in a purely Chinese company, not only a purely Chinese company, but also some of the biggest Chinese state banks are also strategic investors in the company. So what exactly is it that Cisco is looking for in the company that Silicon Valley cannot offer? In addition to, 1.4 billion people back at China. So put demographics aside.
Sure. Look, I don't want to speak for Cisco.
Just in terms of the quintessential technology that 4Paradigm embodies, what is it so unique that Silicon Valley cannot offer today?
Yeah. Okay. So the 4Paradigm edge, one, is that we have a highly interoperable AI platform and AI technology. When you look at the technological ecosystems of particularly sophisticated organizations in the world, it is rarely the case that they have one fully integrated technology portfolio of things that was put together at the same time. It's usually a combination of legacy and new things, and there's constant incremental changes and upgrades and improvements. You have to make sure it won't disrupt existing things that are working well. And one thing that Gartner has identified about Fourth Paradigm is we are highly interoperable. So it's not just the quality of what we can do, but we can fit in modularly around existing things. And for Cisco as well, that's the operating environment they have, is they are frequently the backbone of their clients' systems in one way or another, but they also have to make sure that all the things around them are fitting together. And Fourth Paradigm fits that very, very well. So we've got the technology, but it can fit around other fine technologies that do things that we can't do. We have the ability to link with almost all the industry standard applications, software, cloud providers that any typical client would have.
Sure. You are the head at 4Paradigm for EMEA. So it's not just Cisco. Obviously, you're talking to other partners as well. And because you are in AI, you must look at different business opportunities as well in terms of strategy. So tell us a little bit where you're looking for in terms of M&A, if you're planning to buy any other business towards the end of the year or in 2021. What does your M&A strategy look like?
Our priorities, I think, in this market are to, first of all, just kind of understand and keep up with it, because COVID is changing so many aspects of it. We'd rather be using our time in this period to follow closely the market and engage with the potential client base, as well as vetting and working with potential partners.
Back to China, you work with 4 of the 5 top Chinese commercial banks to give them this, essentially to enable them with this AI capability. You compete head-to-head with Ant Group, don't you?
Well, we compete head-to-head with anybody who is in the AI space, really.
How competitive are you with Ant Group?
FinTech and AI, yeah.
How competitive are you when it comes to competition with Ant Group?
If you look at the AI market and the objective metrics that we have on it in China, we're competitive with everybody, including Ant Group. We now have 2 consecutive years, the number 1 market share. The year-on-year change has been to have a bigger gap between us and our competitors. And these include Western and Eastern giants. And so we're confident we say we can stand against anybody in that whole space.
Talking about the Ant Group and Alibaba ecosystem, of course, we've just had 11/11, Singles Day, more than $70 billion in sales. Did you play any role there?
Indirectly, certainly, because one of the things that Fourth Paradigm does very well is we drive a lot of retail applications. So a lot of AI in the retail space to do with apps or websites, precision marketing. So if you are in a buying frenzy on Singles Day, as most people seem to be, or many people seem to be, at the time when you're browsing around using your retailer's app, then Fourth Paradigm technology may very well be the one that is guiding you to find relevant extra products or services or deals that will induce you to happily part with more money to take advantage of the sales of the day. So yeah, it's a big day for us, the same as it is for any company exposed to the retail consumer.
On your website, you say that AI is for everyone. So you build AI plus retail, and you started to work with Yum Brands for KFC. What can you do for KFC? Explain that to us, please.
Right. It's a good question because KFC is obviously an extremely sophisticated, established retailer. I would say probably they're bigger in China now even than they are in the US in terms of absolute sales and outlets. And actually, it's indicative of the power of AI that the answer is quite a lot. As you have in China, like so many people use the apps to make their orders using the wonderful data that Yum China has or that KFC has. We are able to use the power of Fourth Paradigm AI to make links between the data on hundreds or thousands of different metrics that will then produce a millisecond recommendation as to the customer as to what they might wish to consider, and also increase the sales or the profit margins for KFC.
AI platform. It's rather shocking to me as I should say, as a layman to technology to understand, well, we've just passed the internet era, and then we moved on to the mobile era, and now everybody's talking about the mobile era, and then now you are talking AI is for everyone, and we're moving to the AI platform era. So tell me, when Shirley wakes up in the morning, how does this AI platform world look like for me?
When Shirley wakes up in the morning, Shirley will be influenced and benefiting from AI in all sorts of different ways, but it probably won't be obvious to you exactly how that is happening, because AI is under the hood, as we say. It's part of the sort of the machinery or the ecosystem of your day. But what it's doing, it's just making more efficient, making more targeted, making faster, recommendations for you or analysis for you that will just basically give you information that you need to make decisions about your life in various ways. The amazing thing about AI is at the same time, it gives you theoretically the whole of the global decision set potentially, but it also then drives down to the narrowest possible level to provide the highest probability good outcomes for you to consider. The AI is helping you in your professional life as well. Like, see, a lot of corporations have gone through the last 10 or 15 years investing a lot in data generation, collection, storage, right? That used to be the problem, was that there was no data or no stored data. But now the issue is, okay, a lot of companies have tons of data and more is being generated every day, more and more and more and more. But are they unlocking the value of the data? And again, your life will change just as everyone's life will change by AI, because to the extent that you have data, you can now unlock the power of it. You can understand it better. And what used to take maybe specialists months to work out in terms of how to use the data can now be done, or will soon be done, by a layperson in a very short time, minutes or even instantly. And that's transformative. And that's why, I mean, AI for everyone is our vision. It's our founder's vision, but it's also an inevitability, because the same way that smartphones have just become ubiquitous and will have eventually 100% penetration, AI is just too good not to have in your life. It will be there. It will be at the core of virtually everything at some point. And it will be just as much a part of our lives as electricity. You know, it's that fundamental.
At the end of the day, Mark, 4Paradigm is a Chinese unicorn. So how welcome do you think will you be here in Europe?
This is a continent that has really high quality data. European organizations, I would say, if against global standards, score very, very highly for the quantity and the quality of the data. Moreover, the European Union, the European Commission, is aggressively pushing for what they call the digital common market. So everyone knows about the European common market, but the digital common market is fascinating because it is a conscious strategy and effort to open up pools of data for common usage. So some people think that because Europe has extremely strict privacy requirements, which they do, that the European AI market is going to be very, very restricted. Fine, for personal data, yes. But for corporate data, for macro level data, for anonymized data, this market is ripe for excellent technology. 4Paradigm provides that. How welcome will we be here? To the extent that we can show what we can do with that data, and that we can do so according to European norms, regulations, and values, we'll be very welcome.
I was looking at some AI data right here, parallel comparison across China, EU, and the United States. It's rather interesting, Mark. It says right here, in terms of the number of AI startups, China had about 400 AI startups. EU has over 700, and the US essentially has double that number of the EU's. And so in terms of the number of startups, there are a lot in the European Union, but it's obvious that they are cash starved. Is that an opportunity for 4Paradigm, you think?
It is, because we're not cash starved. Our first investor, our cornerstone investor still is Sequoia. This is like a gold standard tech venture capital investor, of course. And as you pointed out previously, we also have many of the top banks as our clients, but also as our investors in China. We are the first startup in China to have achieved investment from all of China's top 5 banks. So for us, we come in with the capital backing that enables us to be strategic and not panicked.
There is a flurry of Chinese unicorns wanting to go public in Hong Kong, Shanghai, wherever. Obviously and famously, Ant Groups has just been postponed, but there are more in the pipeline, Meituan and so on. So tell us about the listing plans of 4Paradigm.
We clearly were a well-resourced firm with global ambitions. And in order to build internationally, to fulfill a global vision, there will be, I'm sure, a need for extra capital and access to capital markets at some point, probably not all that long from now.
Speaking of your founder,
yeah.
Very, very interesting personality, I should say, on the global technological scene. He's very young. He started with a few years, I believe 4 years in Baidu, which is a Chinese tech company. And then he transitioned over to Huawei. And then he started 4Paradigm and just took off from there. This is a person who studied in Shanghai, Jiaotong University. He didn't study in the Silicon Valley. He didn't work for a Silicon Valley firm. Is that something that's saying much about China's talent shift today?
It certainly does. Now, one thing I need to say, though, is that our founder, despite the fact that, as you say, he's not from Silicon Valley, not educated in the West, he is certainly very knowledgeable about the West, and he has built a team. Like our president, for example, worked for SAP for 20 years, a European global firm. So the quality of Chinese technology, domestically produced talent in these emerging technologies as well. I think not only is this a fact, but it is an increasingly understood and acknowledged fact. China is fully integrated globally when it comes to benchmarking.
For the U.S. to restrict Chinese students to study in the STEM majors in U.S. universities in order to contain this Chinese technological rise, that's probably already a step too late. What would be your assessment there?
In terms of American policy and whether it will change and so forth, I don't know. But I do know that we are, in 4Paradigm, attracting the best and brightest talent in AI from Chinese universities. And some of them have no international background. Some of them do, either past or recent. But it's kind of self-sustaining in terms of research and development at this point. I mean, the knowledge is there.
What is also really interesting, Mark, is that there is a breakdown of this silo thinking in academia, where you just have, this degree and this discipline. It's much more cross-disciplinary right now. Like this whole ecosystem is also being reflected slowly but surely in education.
It's a great point, and it's a really wonderful thing that's happening now in AI. And I say it's wonderful for different reasons. First of all, because I think having that diversity of backgrounds that we're seeing in AI increasingly ensures that the technology is guided according to kind of real world requirements. That's one key thing. The second thing is that it introduces a more global thinking with regards to things like values, applying AI according to different societies' values and different countries' and governments' goals. To me, I just think that this will just accelerate the diffusion of AI, because it will just be taking into account more stakeholders, and it will be more useful from the design standpoint, like from the origins, not modified later.
You saw what happened to ByteDance and TikTok and the WeChat, with their potential bans in the United States. So when you expand and very successfully globally, do you worry at some point you will possibly become the target of geopolitics? What is your contingency plan there?
Well, there are, of course, a lot of things beyond the control of a company. I think the plan is just to, as I previously said here, to proceed in a very open way where people know exactly where we're going, what we're doing, and why. That, I would like to think, will be enough to ensure that 4Paradigm is not interfered with when we're going about legitimate business in whatever market. Ultimately, what you need to do is you need to just continue your business of doing right by your customers while respecting local laws and the spirit of those laws and the cultural values. So that's what we're doing, and that's what we'll continue to do.
So now, Mark, China has this AI plan by 2030. And so we're talking about 10 years away. You, as one of the global leading AI companies out there now, what is your vision for the world by 2030?
Well, first of all, it might be possible to achieve it before 2030. That's the first thing. I mean, if you think back to like the introduction of smartphones, a lot of people point to 2007 with the iPhone. It's really interesting to read the thinking at that time. A lot of people anticipated that what you'd see a divided market between really high-end smartphones and really basic feature phones. That basically a polarization like that. But what we saw instead was a rapid diffusion of that technology far beyond almost what anybody expected. And I think we could see the same thing with AI, like 2030. I mean, that's 10 years from now. And I just think that what we're going to see is as use cases start to spread into more and more industries and the data pools, for example, in Europe get opened up according to the European Commission's policy, expressly stated policy, I think we're going to see just this whole thing take off. This is not a linear growth. It's very difficult to do data point 2021, 2022, 2023. It's going to be exponential rather. And so my vision of 2030 is that AI is going to be so widespread, so entrenched that we basically take it for granted as much as we do taking a smartphone out of our pocket now.
So in your opinion, Mark, do you think that China is already today, in 2020, the global AI leader, 10 years earlier?
I wouldn't say that without any asterisk, okay? Like just say China is the global AI leader, full stop. I don't know about that, but I would say this. You can make that case. That is not a crazy argument to make at all. And it becomes a more defensible position every day. I would say that there are a couple of areas in which China is indisputably world leading in AI, or there's a couple of factors that contribute to that. For example, if you are an AI champion in China, as 4Paradigm is, you are competing in what I think anybody would have to acknowledge is the world's most innovative and fast-moving market when it comes to digital applications. There is a hunger in China for the best technology now. And there is an innovative creativity in the application of those technologies. So in order for us to be in the position that we are, we have to be extremely reactive and extremely embracing of proposals to use this in all sorts of different areas. So it gives us a creative edge. The second thing, of course, is, as is often the case with China, it's a matter of scale. Because we have, as you kindly pointed out earlier, the biggest banks in China as our clients, to take banking as just one sector, one industry. Some of these banks have hundreds of millions of clients. Can you imagine the data points that are required that you have to handle in order to excel at AI applications in that environment? That gives a Chinese company, and in 4Paradigm's case, us, the ability to go anywhere in the world, including the Americas, including Europe, wherever, and to say with confidence, we are not intimidated by however much of a volume of data you have. We can handle it. And we can also do so even in real time. And so those are structural things that a lot of places just can't compete with. They might have the ability to do something on a smaller scale, but can they handle 100 million, 500 million customers? Maybe not.
Fantastic. Mark West, head of EMEA for 4Paradigm. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you, Shirley, and thank you, Martina.
Thank you.
Really interesting for me too.